Let's make some whole wheat sweet potato burger buns. Welcome back to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. Today we're going to make some whole wheat sweet potato hamburger buns so that you can make my amazing bean burgers and have a bun also. So we're going to jump right in. The printable recipe will be in the details below, or a link in the details below. So what we're going to start with is a half a cup of lukewarm water. And then I'm going to use a teaspoon of date syrup, but you could use a teaspoon of maple syrup. This is to activate the yeast. The yeast needs some type of sugar to activate and really to feed on so that it can grow. So I'm going to use the date syrup because that is a healthier alternative to a refined sugar. And then we're going to use 1 tablespoon, and this is just a regular yeast, a granulated yeast. I'm going to sprinkle it on there, and then we're going to stir it in. Make sure you get all of it stirred up really well, and the yeast pushed down from the sides here. Make sure it all gets wet. Okay. Now we're just going to let that sit for about 5 minutes to let it proof, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's ready. Okay, our yeast is proofed, so now we're ready to go to the next step. So I have a half a cup of mashed sweet potato, a teaspoon of Bragg's liquid aminos, and if you don't have liquid aminos, you could use a low sodium soy sauce or tamari. And then we have 2 cups of whole wheat flour. And this is an organic stone ground whole wheat flour. And it's really important. Gluten is actually a really important thing for your gut biome, for your gut health. But we're stressing that it's a whole grain flour. You don't want to use the really refined stuff. The refined flours is a bit of a problem. So we're using our whole grain flour here. This is 2 cups. And we're just going to stir it up here. And I know there's some of you out there that are already asking, is there a gluten-free option? I've tried so many different flours, and really, to make these kind of buns, to have them rise and be slightly fluffy, this is a heavier flour, so they're not going to be super light and fluffy. But you really need that gluten for them to rise really nice and fluffy. So this isn't the recipe for substitutions. Okay, so we're just going to keep mixing it until it's all really pretty incorporated here. And then I'm going to transfer it just to the countertop here. You want to make sure you got a really nice clean countertop. And I'm going to dump it out here so that we can knead it a little bit. Because the kneading is what's going to activate the gluten so that it gets that texture where it's just kind of almost like rubbery or pliable. You know, it's a little stretchy. And that's what holds it all together. So we're just going to keep doing this and kneading for, just a few minutes really. You don't need to do it like a regular bread where you would need to knead for 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes. Because it's not a loaf of bread. We don't need it to be that really holy, like a ciabatta bread or something like that. And then if it still feeling sticky, just using a little bit of flour at a time. You don't want to put too much because it'll make the rolls kind of stiff and hard. So you just keep kneading, and it is going to be a little bit sticky. This is a very, very moist mixture, especially with the added sweet potato in there. But we want to be able to handle it, and then after the first rise, be able to separate it and make it into rolls. So if it's too sticky, you're not going to be able to do that. Okay. Maybe just a teeny bit more. And if you want to read up on the gluten issue, we'll give you a link to some research done by Dr. Greger, where he talks about the importance of gluten in your diet. All right, there we go. So if you look at this, it's starting to look kind of nice and kind of satiny. It's very smooth. So now we're just going to put it back in our bowl, and it's okay if there's a little flour in there. It's not going to hurt anything. Put it back in your bowl and take a towel and cover it, and we're just going to leave it on the countertop for about an hour or until it's doubled in size. If you have a really cold house, it'll probably take a little bit more than an hour, and if your house is really warm, it might only take a half an hour, so be sure to just keep checking it. And we'll be back.
While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is crowd-funded, which means these free weekly recipe videos, along with our entire catalog of free printable recipes on our website, plantbasedcookingshow.com, and our Plant-Based Cooking Made Easy cookbook series, are all made possible in part by the generous patronage of our supporting membership community. Our supporting members gain access to great member perks like our monthly product giveaways, ebooks, and in-depth courses, including our 28 Days Plant-Based Made Easy course, where we offer a step-by-step guide to making the switch to a fully plant-based diet. So if you love our recipes, I invite you to join us on our mission to make plant-based cooking easy, and follow the link in the description to become a supporting member today. Okay, let's get back to the show.
Okay, our bread is ready. So if you want to come in and take a look, so it has doubled in size. I'll put a little bit of water on my hands here. So this recipe is enough to make about 4 hamburger buns. Okay, so I'm just going to roughly divide it into 4. Kind of guesstimate here. There's 2. Do that in half. Okay. It's good to keep a little bit of, this is essentially like if you ever made bread rolls before, sometimes you put a little oil on your hands. It works just as well with water. So what you're going to do is you're kind of just tucking everything to the inside, or to the bottom, I mean, because you're kind of stretching the dough so it creates surface tension, and that's what's going to push it, allow it to rise. It's going to push against that tension. So you're going to, just like that, kind of tucking the ends under. I'm going to dip my fingers again, and I'm going to smush it down kind of flat, just to make the shape of a hamburger bun. So it's probably about a 1/2 inch thick. I'm going to do that to my others here. Tucking it under, kind of tucking and folding at the same time. And then putting it down, wetting my fingers a little bit. And that just keeps them from sticking, really. And then if you want a really classic looking hamburger bun or burger bun, I've got just some sesame seeds here. Just sprinkle them on. And you're just going to lightly kind of pat them down a little bit so they get stuck into the bread. All right, I'm going to make the other 2, and then I'm going to cover it with a towel again and just leave it on the countertop for at least another 1/2 hour to let them rise again. Okay, moment of truth. Woo! Look at those. So just like before when it was in the bowl, you want to leave these until they're about doubled in size, or you can just tell they've risen a little bit. They're kind of puffy. So I've already preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're going to go in for 20 minutes. All right, our burger buns are done. Come on in and take a look. So I'm going to let these cool for a bit, slice one in half, get my burger fixins, and I'll meet you at the table for a taste. Okay, let's make a burger. But if you want to take a close up here and look at this burger bun, really nice and soft and spongy. All right, but it is time to make a burger. So a little ketchup, mustard. I like my stone ground mustard. Put that on top. And some onion. Let's do this one. A tomato. And then one of my black bean burgers. We'll give you a link in the details below for that recipe too. It is really good. Some lettuce. And here's another way for you to use some sprouts. Get those sprouts in there. They're perfect to put on a burger. All right, here we go. Oh boy, that is gonna require a big bite. Yum.